What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be going over 8 tips to be a great wide receiver. These are tips that all wide receivers need to learn if you want to be successful at the next level. So fellas, the first thing that we're going to be discussing today is press coverage and having a plan off the line of scrimmage as a wide receiver. This is something that you need if you're facing a lot of press coverage right when you walk up to the line. So your plan of action needs to be based on 2 things. It needs to be based on the DB's leverage and the distance he is away from you, whether he's in press coverage right on the line, whether he's catch technique, maybe 2 yards away, or maybe he's 5 yards away, or an off-man coverage. All of those things, all that information that we gather the second we step up to the line of scrimmage conducts my plan. So let's say, for example, I have to run a 10-yard post. We're going to use that as an example for this. Let's say this blue cone represents the DB and he is inside leverage. So the leverage of the DB tells us what he's trying to accomplish. If he's inside leverage, he doesn't want us to take an inside release, and his goal is to force us to the sideline. The sideline is an extra defender on the field. That's his help. Now, let's say, for example, the DB's outside leverage, right? That means he doesn't want us to take an outside release, and he wants to force us to the inside where his help would be, which is either a linebacker or more than likely a safety. Then let's say he's in head-up coverage. If he's in head-up coverage, he could be disguising his leverage, so on the snap of the ball, he might jump inside. On the snap of the ball, he might jump outside, or he might stay where he is. Depending on one of those 3 things is generally what he will do. So knowing that information as a receiver when you come up to the line, that's how I structure my releases. Now, the second thing you want to keep in mind is distance, and we'll talk about that in a second. So let's say I have to run that 10-yard post and I have inside shade press. Going into a game, I need to have probably 3 to 5 different releases that can work for these different press coverages. I don't mean have 5 releases you could use versus inside shade press. I mean have one for inside shade, have one for head up, have one for outside, have one for inside shade where he's 2 yards off, have one for head up 2 yards off, have one for outside leverage 2 yards off. That's essentially what I mean, excuse me. Now, let's say he's inside shade. Let's say I got to run a post. Predetermined going into a game, my thought process, okay, if he's inside shade, whether I got to run an outside breaking route or an inside breaking route, I'm going to do just a crossover and then go release, right? If he's inside shade and I got to run an inside breaking route, my goal would be to stack him, have him right on my hips, swat, and throw by. Let's say he's head up, right? So he could stay, jump inside, or jump outside. So what I could do is I could do a split release. So if he jumps inside, okay, cool, I go outside. I do a split, jumps outside, cool. He stays, I could just take the inside or the outside based on the route that I'm running. Now let's say he's outside leverage. Okay, my plan would be to throw a jab, then go and take the inside release. Whether it's an outside breaking route or inside breaking route, the DB's leverage determines how you release unless it's a situation where it's a mandatory inside release or a mandatory outside release. Now let's say, for example, here, inside shade 2 yards off. Maybe I want to do that crossover, but I'm going to close the space, then crossover. Let's say he's head up. What I could do is I could close the space, then split. Let's say he's outside leverage. I could close the space, then give the jab. So you need to have that plan going in, because that's how you guys can play faster, have a faster thought process off the line, and be more successful versus press. Now, fellas, before we get into these next 7 tips, if you are a wide receiver and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches this offseason, we're going to be traveling out to 15 different cities across the entire U.S. for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camp. So guys, if you would like to sign up, go to that very first link in the description below. That is where you can get all the information. Our camps are a little bit different. We limit spots so we can work with each athlete on an individual basis. It's not a big group of guys. We're trying to go as fast as we can. We take the time to slow it down, explain what you're doing wrong and how you can improve. So guys, our camps will sell out, but we have availability. Our first 3 camps, we only have anywhere from like 8 to 12 spots left. So make sure you take advantage of the fact that we have open spots, because we will soon have to turn people away. So again, guys, go to that very first link in the description below. Our next camp is going to be in San Francisco, California. They'll be coming out to Orlando, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona, Columbia, South Carolina, Seattle, Washington, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Nashville, Tennessee, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Austin, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Denver, Colorado, Columbus, Ohio, Boston, Massachusetts, Salt Lake City, Utah, and finishing it off in Los Angeles, California. So guys, we hope we can see you there. We love having anybody from our YouTube community out to our camps, because you guys generally are the most with it and you guys follow our content the most. So we really appreciate the support. Hope we can see you there. Very first link in that description below. Now, tip number 2, fellas, as a wide receiver is you have to be able to sell your releases with your hips. So we talked about having a plan of action, but what's the technique behind those releases? And this is something that you should be working during the drill work that you guys do in the off season or even during the season when you're practicing different press releases. So what do I mean by selling with your hips? A DB in press coverage, if he's disciplined, he's going to be keyed in on your hips with his eyes, right? So I don't want to be that dude that does a lot of head and shoulder fakes and my hips just stay square, because if that DB's keyed in on my hips, he ain't going to move, you guys. He's going to stay patient. He's going to ride with you to whatever release you decide to do. So if I'm trying to get this DB who's, let's say, in head-up press to jump to the outside, right? I want to think my hip is attached to my foot. When I throw over here, I want my hip to go with my foot, as that's what's more likely to get that DB to jump and help you sell that release. So don't sell with the head and shoulders, focus on selling with your hips. Now, tip number 3, this has to do with press releases as well. You need to get skinny when you are breaking up into your route. So let's say, for example, I have a DB who's lined up inside shade press, and let's say I want to run that 10-yard post, right? So if he's inside shade press, I don't want to force the inside release, because his entire goal being inside leverage is to not let me release to the inside. So if I just try to go to the inside, he's going to keep his leverage, because that's his responsibility, get hands, and force me way over the middle of the field. So let's take what he gives me to hit the outside release. Now, a lot of people are a little bit hesitant with that, because what if I can't stack him? What if he's on my hip? Getting skinny helps with either of those situations, where either you stack him or he stays on your hip. So if this DB's here, let's say at that blue cone, and I use that crossover move, I sell it with my hips, I get him to jump. My next step off of this needs to be vertical, and I want to get right past my hip to next to his hip, for example. So if I go here, I want my hip to be right next to him. I want to squeeze by him and get skinny. What that allows me to do is maybe potentially restack where he's trailing behind me. So when I get up to my post route, maybe I give him a 1-2 and I fake to the outside, get him to bite and go. Now, if I go here and don't get skinny and go really wide, guess what that DB could do? He could cut off the angle, take a 45, and then meet me on my route and get contact and continue to force me to the outside, right? So you might attack his leverage, you might use the right release, but if the technique after the release isn't there, you won't be able to get separation on the route. Now, let's say he's fast, right? You still want to get skinny, because that will allow you to use that move called a throw by. So let's say I do this move, let's say I go wide, maybe he doesn't cut me off, but there's this gap of space and I'm trying to cut under him. It's going to be easier for him to adjust if I can't stack him. But if I get right past his hip and he's running right next to me and we are hip to hip, at the break point of my post, I could throw him by and slip under, but I can't do the throw by, I can't restack if I do not get skinny. So go hip to hip with the DB when you are breaking up into your route. Now, tip number 4 is going to be using something called a lean technique when you are getting skinny on your route. So we just talked about getting skinny and what that meant when I have to run an inside breaking route versus inside shade press. But let's say I have to run an outside breaking route versus inside shade press. Let's say it's a 10-yard out, for example, right? So if I give him this move, I don't want to just run away from him, because if I take this wide angle and then try to get up to my 10-yard out, that DB can cut me off and be all over the route at the top of the break, and this wide angle to come back to the break point screws up the quarterback's timing, especially on an outside breaking route, which is generally a timing route, especially a 10-yard out. That's definitely a timing route. So what I want to do is I still want to get skinny. I want to stack him. That's always my primary goal. And if I could stack him on an outside breaking route, great. I could give a move, whatever. But if he's right on my hip, I get skinny like I'm supposed to, but let's say he's fast. Let's say he's running right with me. Guess what I could do at the break point? I could lean my body into him, and at the cut, I could push off without getting flagged for a push off. If you guys are running and you just shove him, yeah, you're going to get a flag called, right? But if I lean into him with my shoulder, with my hip, at the break point when I stick, that's going to be able to get some space. We're going to be able to push off without getting a flag called. So that's another reason why you have to get skinny off your routes, so you could use that lean technique. So tip number 5, you guys, has to do with catching, more specifically catching over the middle and catching in traffic. So what I would say, anytime that you're running over the middle, anytime you have a linebacker behind you, DB behind you, safety coming down, linebacker coming to you, you want to focus on 2 things. Number 1, being late with your hands. If you have a DB who's running right behind you and you're running and you show your hands and you're trying to meet this ball way in front of yourself, guess what that guy's going to do as soon as it makes contact with your hands? Snap that thing out or hit that thing out, because he knows exactly where to play the ball, because you're showing him. You're showing him exactly, hey, here's the target to make a play. So what you want to do is you want to catch this ball in front of your face, but you want to be as late as possible. Now, when you're getting contact, if we're going to get a hit or if we're going to take a shot, we got to make sure that we come up with the ball. So you need to be violent to the tuck with the football. So ball's thrown to me here, late with my hands, as quickly as I can, I tuck it away. So if people are swatting at it, they can't hit it. If I take contact from a safety or a backer, at least I hang onto the ball. If I'm going to take a big hit, I might as well hang onto the ball as well. So make sure you're late with your hands over the middle and you are violent to the tuck when catching in traffic. Now, fellas, tip number 6 has to do with an over-the-shoulder catch. So I'm talking like a deep fade, maybe a deep skinny post where the QB puts some air on it and he throws it over your shoulders. So there's 2 things you want to focus on an over-the-shoulder catch. Number 1, being late. We just talked about having late hands over the middle, but over the shoulder, you also want to be late. You don't want to be catching it so late that you're catching it down here by your knees or by your hip. You're probably going to drop the ball, or more likely to drop the ball if you do that. You want to catch the ball anywhere from from like eyes to chest level, but I don't want to be like this and try to catch the ball. Two reasons. One, you show your hands right here. DB who's on your hip knows exactly where to play the ball. Number two, if you show your hands like this and maybe you misjudge it, maybe the quarterback puts it a little bit further. When your hands are here and they're not running, you're obviously going to be slower. So you want to keep your arms pumping all the way until here. Catch the ball eye level, chest level. Then what you want to focus on doing to be more consistent, second point of this, is you want to make sure that your eyes see the football hit your hands. So many receivers will track this deep ball, and then when it hits their hands, they're peeking upfield too quick because they want to turn upfield too quick. Ball hits your hands, bam. It should be a freeze frame photo. I say like take a self-portrait of the ball. You guys have all seen that before, like on a nightstand, somebody has a self-portrait. The only thing in the portrait is the picture of the person. That's how you want to think of the football. The only thing in your line of vision should be the football. That should take up your entire vision, put the ball away, then we could get upfield. So make sure you're laid over the shoulder and your eyes see the football hit your hands. Now, tip number 7, fellas, is something we don't talk a whole lot about on this channel usually, and that's making people miss when you have the ball in your hands. So how do you practice that? How do you work on that? Essentially, when you have the ball in your hands and you're trying to make people miss, it's all route running. It's all based off of a reaction, obviously. It's not a predetermined move that you use, but practicing your route running will make you a better person or make you a better athlete, I should say, or better at making people miss with the ball in your hands. So let's say, for example, I catch like a bubble screen, right? And I'm turning upfield, and I got a linebacker who takes a high angle. I want to drop my hips just like how I would drop my hips on a comeback, a hitch route, whatever the case may be. Let's say I'm running this way, guy takes a high angle, bam, I put the brakes on with just a stick and I slip back underneath. It's just like route running, you guys. So if you want to be better with the football in your hands, get really good at route running. Practice your breaks, practice your change of direction. Now, another thing that can help you is working reaction drills to help you with change of direction. So for example, sometimes I'll have my receivers, I'll have them run at me, and what I'll do is I'll be holding 2 tennis balls, and what I'll do is I'll bounce a tennis ball either in my left hand or my right hand. They're running at me, I bounce it in my left hand, and they got to put a move on and catch the tennis ball before it hits the ground. Drills like that will help you be better at reaction time, which helps you with the ball in your hand, and practicing your route running will help you be a better player with the ball in your hand as well. Now fellas, tip number 8 has to do with the mental side of the game as a wide receiver. Now I'm not talking about picking a press release, knowing what move to use at the top of the route. I'm talking about how to keep things simple. So the best piece of advice I can give you from the mental side of things as a receiver is take things one play and one rep at a time and just focus on your job, because that's all you can control. Any single athlete in any single sport should only be focused on what they can control and what their specific job is. So as a receiver, let's keep it super simple. Your job is to run the right route versus whatever coverage look you get and catch the ball. So that's all you're thinking about. In a live game scenario, you're not thinking about selling a release with your hips. You're not thinking about leaning into a guy. You're not thinking about a rocker step, which is a 1-2 at the top of the break. All those moves should be muscle memory if you're doing the proper training that you should be doing in the off season. Those are all pretty much just like instinctual, if you will. You're focused on just, okay, run the right route, catch the ball. Everything else should be second nature. So if you're focused on that, and then when the play ends, you're just focused on the next play. Maybe the next play is a run play. Okay, my job is to block. My job is to make sure I force him to the sideline. My job is to force him to the inside. Whatever the case may be, but just focus on your job, take things one play at a time, and the game will slow down. You hear a lot of high-level athletes talk about, oh, well, the game really slowed down for me, or he's playing it, you know, he's like kind of like that like flow state, if you will. That's when they're just reacting, you guys. They're just focused on one specific thing. They're keeping their job simple. They're in the present moment. Once that moment ends, they're on to the next moment. If you want to be like at peak performance, that's what you have to focus on at the receiver position.